Well, hello everyone. Welcome to, well, we aren't in the regular season anymore. We are in the semifinal playoffs and relegation and decider matches, which means every match had a lot on the line this week. My name is Zotomo, and I'm joined as always by Calamity. How are you doing today?
Hello there. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. A bit cooler this week.
Yep, thankfully.
Very nice. And we have with us the man, the myth, the legend himself, Gweilowizard. How are you?
I'm doing well. I don't think I'm any of those three things, except for maybe a man. But I appreciate it nonetheless. Good to be here.
Oh, no, I think you've kind of earned the title a little bit at least, and we'll see why when we get to you in Division 2 here for today. But let's start off with our championship playoff and relegation matches in Division 1. And man, some crazy, or not, yeah, very crazy, interesting scores for us here, Calamity.
Yeah, it was kind of an interesting seed as well, and we'll talk about that later. But I don't think that the end results were all that surprising. We've already talked about last week how Mr. Blue kind of had a mediocre form to end the season. He's also currently, I think, on holiday somewhere. So I'm not too surprised that he struggled a bit with Raidman as an opponent, who we know has been performing very well throughout the whole season. And with Boxer as well, he's finished the regular season in first place, and Giovanni did very well to keep up with him, but in the end, just short by 200 points. And the relegation match was, well, kind of what we expected as well. Although Radu actually having the best score here in total, even better than any of the actual playoff competitors, so that's quite fun. But yeah, Kevin was always going to struggle against Radu, and he made one pretty hefty mistake, which was on round one as well, so that kind of ended his hopes immediately.
Yeah, Guelo, any comments on these results here for our Division 1 players?
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Boxa Stimfalix match. We'll get into the locations in a second, but they were just trading a couple hundred points here and there. It was very, very close and well earned. But if Boxa had made one more tiny mistake, Stimfalix would have taken it. And yeah, excellent score by Renmucha. Mr. Blue had a great season, but yeah, like you said, he tailed off, and it'll be interesting to see Raidman's second chance at the final later on. And then with Radu and Kevin, yeah, it was a hard round. I actually messed up the same round Kevin did when I played the seed. And again, we'll get into where that is. But if he had 5K that round, he still wouldn't have beaten Radu because of just such an excellent score. So well done for Radu for earning his spot in Div 1 next year.
Radu was promoted from Division 2 last season and almost slipped back down, but a good run of form towards the end of the season does see him stay in Division 1, and Kevin will drop for the first time out of Division 1 and into Division 2 with that one. And with Raidman winning, he is a return finalist. He lost out to Simi last season, so he's got another shot at that crown in the next week with that. Yeah, so because we don't have any tables to do this week, we thought we'd throw in the maps instead and take a little bit of in-depth look at the locations and how the players did on them. And so here are the locations for the Division 1 seed. And Division 1, Round 1 in Botswana. Again, not the easiest location to get, even if you realize it's Africa. Botswana can be a bit of a tricky country. And Calamity, I'll let you say more about this a bit, but you mentioned before that an AI generated world tends to play as a rural world, and it certainly did. Very few locations on major roads, but some very close. Anyways, round 2 outside of Medellin in Colombia. However you pronounce that.
Medellin.
Medellin?
Medellin.
Okay. Medellin.
Medellin. Is that good enough?
Can
I move on?
You can move on. It's not great, but yeah, move on.
Okay. Round 3 in Palma, Spain, on a little island off the coast. Round 4 was pretty interesting, near the North Korean border in South Korea, but on the far end from Seoul, not close to it. And we finished up round 5 at near a very pretty major intersection in the Czech Republic. Very interesting locations, well spread out across the world, Calamity.
Yeah, I'll go through them one by one as well, and sort of talk about my experiences with it, as Guelo did as well, played through the seed. Round one, I can definitely see where struggles come in. I myself wasn't 100% sure where even in the world this was until like very close to the end. I walked east for about 2 minutes 50, and just by the way of the landscape, I was kind of split on could it be Africa, in which case I was pretty sure it would be Botswana if it was Africa. But I was also not sure it might have been somewhere in South America. But yeah, eventually with like 10 seconds left, I found a black person. So I was like, okay, probably Botswana then. I think I probably would have gone with Botswana anyway. But where in the country, I really would have had no clue. We then went over to Colombia, where, as you said, near Medellin. And I was actually a bit surprised about that one because only me and Hexalt managed to 5K that out of like 30 people. And I thought for me that was actually one of the easiest rounds of the whole seed. I think I moved like 200 meters because right at the start, it basically told you a hotel name and a city name close by. And then a few meters further, it told you that you're on the road between Medellin and Bogota. So you pretty much had just like a maybe 50-kilometer stretch of road to look for, because it also told you you're on kilometer 72 of that road. So you're kind of really like close to either city. And yeah, a lot of people didn't get too close on that. Lots of still pretty high scores, but very few aces there. Then, as you said, we went over to Mallorca. That was a pretty easy round. I don't think many people messed up here. Wasn't the easiest to pinpoint because the road you're on actually didn't have a name on the map, but still, you drop a couple points there maybe. Yeah, then as you said, South Korea. Movement there was a bit odd. You kind of ran into lots of dead ends, and there wasn't really, at least for me, I didn't find any information that was helpful at all. So kind of maybe some of the people who got great scores there did something with landscape. Maybe some of them saw the coast somewhere. I don't know. I didn't find anything. And then, yeah, round 5 was relatively easy again. As you said, relatively close to some major intersection in Czechia. And you had all of it there. You had the numbers of the roads, especially because you had 2 numbers, so you knew kind of had to be where they meet. And I think you had some city signs as well. So that might have been a bit difficult to pinpoint, again, because it was on a long straight road. But with world maps, you've got enough of a leeway anyway.
Oh, very nice. Gweilo, how did the locations go for you?
Yeah, I guessed Colombia for the first round. So I didn't even think to look at the people. I was wondering if you'd seen a sign or something, or people had seen a sign. So that was well done. Kevin guessed in Senegal for that round, so he did substantially better than I did, but not well enough to earn more than a couple hundred points. I did see the city name in round 2. I did see Medellin as a city. I didn't realize it was a city though. So that was why I couldn't find that road. How'd you know you were on that one road instead of the one next to it, for example?
Because the road 60, if you zoom into it all the way, it's actually called Autopista Medellin Bogota, which was the exact name that was on the sign.
Yep. There you go. Okay, that's what I missed. Yeah, and then the Korea round was the other one that kind of mattered for a lot of people. Most people, if they didn't know anything, guessed in the center of the country. And then I think that this is actually where Boxa beat Stimfalax. Boxa was able to get that it was the northeast corner, and Stimfalax was just kind of guessed in the center.
Yep.
So, and that was basically what won him the round. I believe, yeah, Stimfalax was closer in Botswana, but Boxa was, the point gap in Korea was greater, so Boxa won out.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, what's really interesting and really shows how competitive this was of this, we had 10, 4, 6. I had the number right in my head the first time. 6 competitors in our playoff and relegation match who played this. 4 of them took the top 5 spots, with Shluti, who had nothing to play for, just sneaking in here to play an extra practice game. So yeah, very good on this map, very tight, no points for anybody there. But some, yeah, really interesting locations to test them, and they were all up, for the most part, up for the challenge in Division 1, which is pretty great to see there.
Yeah, one thing I'd just like to quickly mention as well, because I forgot about that. As Gweilo said, Kevin guessed in Senegal, which was a bit odd to me because, Senegal has a lot of meta. And so usually I'm not surprised that he couldn't guess Botswana. I'm more surprised about what he went for. And he guessed in a place of Senegal that doesn't have coverage either. I can maybe imagine, maybe he thought it's some sort of non-usual Senegal coverage, maybe a national park or something. But yeah, it's still kind of maybe a bit of an odd choice there.
Yeah.
I think
Okay.
there's some coverage of Senegal without bars, but it's like only near Dhaka, and it doesn't look like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but also there's the French in Africa, as well as the rifts tend to be there. So quite a few things that point out the country. So an interesting note for that. Yeah. So as we get in Division 2, before we look at the scores, this is what Gweilowizard had to go up against in his relegation match. So I think you posted this in the Discord.
Yeah, before yourself. I played my match. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was pretty great.
I felt bad immediately afterward, of course, but that's what it felt like before I played.
Yeah, Radox has survived the relegation fight twice, 2 seasons running, and Gweilo was his next opponent. So it looked at least a little bit like a chance for Radox to take another victim. But you managed to thwart the Reaper himself as we take a look at these scores and edge him out there in that relegation matchup. And unfortunately for you, Calamity, Verdok, of course, being a relegated player from Division 1, was very strong in his promotion matchup against you. So, Gweilo, how did that match go? And congrats.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it was a really hard match, especially as Radox had beaten me. I think it was on either Dams of the World or Islands, one of the world maps earlier in the season. Mm-hmm. So I know from experience his prowess at world maps, not just from stories. But yeah, I pulled out a win with a really tight margin. It came down to round 1 for us, which was in South Africa. We both saw this. I watched this video afterward. We both saw the same sign with these blurred route numbers that didn't actually give you the number, but it gave you the city near it, and neither of us recognized the city. And I just guessed closer than him by like 700 points, and that ended up being the margin, more or less. It's a bit of finally some luck after a really, really difficult season for me. I had a lot less time to practice this season than I did last season, and that made it pretty hard, especially as I did have some decent bad luck. Like I said, I played Radox on a world map, and I also in California I played the real Clyde, who's from California, which is unfortunate, seeing as that was my best chance to use my home field advantage. But I don't feel like I deserve to stay in Division 2, but I'm glad luck was the other way.
Okay, yeah, and Calamity, your matchup with Verdox there.
Yeah, it's not surprising. Kind of unlucky as well. I talked with Ice beforehand about just because we were doing some kind of discussions about what would happen if we ever get to go to a final, which maps would we pick, which maps would we not pick. And I basically mentioned to him there's like 6 countries or so that I'm just not good at and that I'd never pick. And 2 of them were Montenegro and Argentina. And well, we'll see what we got in this seed later on. But yeah, so kind of a bit of bad luck here. First 2 rounds went very well, and then we had all of these kind of rural or just locations that I'm just not very good at. And I always knew that it was going to be a very tough game for me against Verdok. And I kind of would have needed to get either I think I would have preferred an easy seed for me. Just to get a great score, because I think if it's a difficult seed, then Verdok's always going to beat me unless I get luckier, which I clearly didn't this time. But yeah, I said beforehand that I didn't really see myself having much of a chance against Verdok, and he did beat me. Yeah, Gweilo against Radox. I was actually surprised. We'll talk about round 1 later on, but I was surprised that was the deciding round between the 2 of you. But yeah, as I said last week, I could have really seen this match go either way. And yeah, you've got next season now to prove that you belong in Division 2.
Yeah, I definitely think that I would have called these matches the way that they did go, but the margin, I think, was bigger than I would have expected. I would have expected you to be closer to Verdok, even though he would have probably won. And I would have expected Radox, especially on a world map, given his kind of performance even in this season itself, to be at least a little bit higher. But in the end, still ended up the way it was. But it definitely didn't expect you to be the worst of the four in that one, Calamity.
I wasn't
But
too
yes,
surprised about that with the seed.
with the seed. Yeah, so let's take a look at that seed itself. So as you can see here, we had two South American locations kind of crammed together. But yeah, round one in South Africa on the Highway 3, just northwest of Durban. Round two in the Netherlands, very close to the Belgian border. Round three was northern Argentina, off major roads, but not too far. And the same for Uruguay, a very remote area, but not too far from a few major roads in round four. And round five, finishing off on the E65 in Montenegro, near a small little town, but nothing too major for that. But yeah, so Gweilo, tell us about round number one, because Africa on a highway not too far from town doesn't sound, on paper at least, like a confusing location.
No, it really shouldn't have been. And Calamity 5K'd it, as he implied. So it was like you said, it was right off Highway 3. It was actually on Road 103, and if you know South African road numbers, which I did not when I was playing this, but I do now. Road 10X is the road that is parallel to Highway X. So we were on 103, which means it's parallel to Highway 3. The landscape looked like Lesotho. It looked like a Eswatini to me, but I should have recognized it as being closer to Lesotho. But there was plenty of evidence that was South Africa and not either of those two countries. So I guess near Lesotho, again, because I couldn't read this route number. Radax actually, if you moved back a step, you could actually read the route number, and he did that, but he still wasn't able to figure out where that was. And he guessed in, I can't pronounce the city name on the southern coast.
Port Elizabeth.
Okay, yeah, Port Elizabeth. Yeah, that must have been a recent change.
Yeah, that's a new.
You're right. It was Port Elizabeth. I didn't realize they changed it.
They changed it like a few months ago.
Okay. Wow, that's cool.
Do you know how to pronounce it?
Yes, no. I know how to pronounce it, but I can't do it.
Yeah.
It has some sort of
so
it has some weird clicking sound. No, it has some weird.
The Q.
Sound,
the Q is one of the clicks.
Oh, is a click? I didn't know that.
Okay.
That's very interesting. Yeah, so that was a round that both of us could have 5K'd, and even though I couldn't read the route number, there was a city name that I should have looked for that I did see, but it turned out to be the deciding factor. Round two was pretty straightforward. I think that was in the Netherlands, and I think everyone 5K'd that or was very close. And then rounds 3 and 4 were these weird landscape guesser rounds in South America, where you had, I think there was one sign in the Argentina round, which actually, looking back on it, it had the name of the city it was nearby, but no one figured out that that was the city that they could have found on the map. And then in Uruguay, I think there was literally 0 signs. To me, there's this little, in the northern Argentina for round 3, this little like square of forest that I'm always very drawn to put my marker near for some reason. And I've had rounds in there before, and I kind of recognized that location vaguely, but I wasn't convinced it was right in it, so I put it right outside of it, and it turned out it was smack dab in the middle of this square of forest. And then with Uruguay, the round looked a lot like that one round I think Division 1 had on Uruguay a couple of weeks ago, where you had those spray painted route numbers on the back of the signs. So that's, I guess, in like just north of Montevideo in where that location was, but it turned out to be much further away in Uruguay. Rex actually was much closer on that than I was. And then, yeah, the round 5 was very strange. It was in Montenegro, like you said. But it had these, so there was all these signs for a city, Pljevlja. I have no idea how to pronounce that. Pljevlja. It had all these signs for it, and another sign for Belgrade as well. But it turned out it was actually like quite a distance away in kind of like central Montenegro. So both Radax and I guessed very, very close to this one city in northern Montenegro, and it was actually much farther, like much closer to the center of the country. And Verdock actually 5K'd that, which I was very impressed by, because I had no idea how he found that. But so you guessed in Serbia, Calamity?
Yeah, I'll go through them one by one.
Okay.
Okay. I'd first like to ask you in South Africa about which direction you and Radox went. Did you go north or south?
In the Uruguay round?
South
Africa. Let me check. I have the seat open here.
Okay.
I went north. I'm pretty sure. Oh, I don't remember.
Because when
We went from the same direction. I think it was south.
oh yeah, that would make sense because I walked north, and if you walk north, you get into Moy River, and you get to a connection to the main highway number 3.
Okay.
And
Yeah,
there
we
you
didn't see that.
pretty quickly see a sign towards Pietermaritzburg, and for Highway 3. So that was actually quite an easy round from then on.
Okay.
But yeah, I can imagine how going south, and if you've only got the R103, and if you don't know that about roads going parallel to the national highways, then I can imagine how that would be quite difficult to find. But yeah, as you said, for me it was kind of, I didn't really need to landscape guess because I had all the information, but it did kind of look like that area between Lesotho and Eswatini. I think that whole area kind of looks very similar. I think where you guessed all that way north, there is a bit more mountainous, but it could be that the mountains start a bit further north even from where you guessed. I'm not too sure about that anymore. But yeah, the first 2 rounds were quite nice. As you said, we then went into the Netherlands. It was actually only us 2 who managed to pinpoint it, but yeah, Radox and Verdok were both like 3 kilometers away or something. So there were not very many points lost there. And then we came to the countries I don't like. In Argentina, we were relatively close to Miraflores. The problem is that is a very common name in South America. So while I did think I recognized it from somewhere, it was obviously not this one, because even if you zoom, you have to zoom in super far on the map to see it. So I don't think, unless you know exactly where you're looking for it, I don't think you're going to find that. And yeah, I knew we were kind of north in Argentina, but I didn't know how far north exactly. So I just kind of hedged it to not go too far north, and that didn't turn out all that great. And yeah, I found nothing else apart from that town name. And then round 4, my issue with Uruguay was that I had never seen this road before. And I was pretty sure that if it was a road in Uruguay, then I would have seen it. And that was the main reason why I decided. I was so split on it the whole time because I was constantly, my mind was thinking, it kind of looks like Uruguay, but I don't recognize it. And if it was Uruguay, I'd recognize it. So eventually, yeah, I kind of mind gamed myself and went for sort of that very northeastern part of Argentina. I don't think it's actually, maybe if you had really good internet speed and walked really fast, then maybe, but I don't think it was realistic to find any information in that round, apart from like, some language, like some farm names or something like that, but no good information, either direction you took. And then round 5, as you said, I went with Serbia because I think most people would have walked north. I don't think anyone would have walked south on that round. But if you walk north, you kind of make your way into Mojkovac, and in front of that city, or kind of like, yeah, in front of it, to the south of it, before you get into it, there's a sign that, as Gweilowizard said, points you towards Belgrade. And I thought, why, if you've got a sign and it says Belgrade on it, and there's no sort of specification about, okay, this is in a different country, then why would it be in a different country? That was kind of my thought process. And people then reminded me afterwards that, well, the separation of Montenegro came in 2006, and it's possible that the sign is older than 15 years, meaning that it makes a lot more sense. But I didn't think of that while I was playing it, and unfortunately there was another sign a bit further, pointing the other way, that said Podgorica on it, but that was hidden by a bus, and I even watched my video back and I never saw that sign, because I just clicked to a point where you were kind of in front of the bus and you couldn't see the sound because of the bus, and then I clicked past the bus and the sound was behind me at that point. So I kind of really just got unlucky there a bit. And yeah, it did say Mojkovac in a few places in that round. A lot of them were kind of hidden. Like, not hidden in the sense of you had to find them, but hidden in the sense of that they didn't really stand out as town names. They were kind of just on buildings and stuff like that. So I think that's probably one of the things that Verdok saw, which made him able to pinpoint that location. Because I was convinced we were in Serbia, I also didn't see any of the cities, obviously, that were on the signs, because they were all in Montenegro. And yeah, at the end, I found a sign that pointed us towards Kolashin, which is one of the more standout towns in Montenegro. But again, I knew I recognized that one, but I had no memory of where, and I couldn't find it.
Nice. Well, Calamity, you'll have to try to earn that promotion again next season, and you'll have to fight with Guelo again for that because he's going to be staying up. So,
as a last note, it's actually interesting. Both Calamity, myself, and the Basement, who were all promoted from Div 3 last year, we all stay in Div 2, but we all do it in very different manners.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Take 2 next time then.
Yeah,
Okay,
and another interesting thing, just to add to that quickly, because I just thought of it. Out of the 3 people who got promoted to Division 2 in Season 1, Ice got promoted this season out of Division 2 into Division 1. Seppo got relegated this season, and Slovak retired this season. Was Slovak the third one? No, who was the third one? I'm not sure. Let me quickly look that up. I thought it was Slovak. Yes, yeah, it was Slovak. He then got relegated last season. Now got retired. Yeah, or did retire. Yeah, so quite interesting and very different circumstances for everyone who gets promoted from Division 3, apparently.
Yeah, well, yeah, Division 2 kind of being in between the best and the rest is an interesting place of players moving up in the world, as well as players who are just not able to hang with Division 1. So very interesting mix, and lots of crazy things happen there every season. So looking forward to that again next year for sure. Okay, well, Division 3 matchups here. For the promotion fight, we had 2 players who were in Division 4 last season, trying to continue their run of form all the way up. And in our relegation fight, we had 2 players who probably, given their past performances, didn't want to see themselves in this place. But again, very tough battles here. Very good scores overall in this one. But maybe this one was a little bit nicer in terms of the seed, at least, for them. Yeah, Calamity, your thoughts on the results in Division 3 here?
Yeah, it was for sure. This and Division 4 as well had some quite nicer seeds, which is probably a good thing, to have the more difficult seeds for the higher divisions. Not that it was on purpose, obviously. But yeah, I said that before, that I wasn't not going to be too surprised, no matter how these results ended. And I think they were both relatively close. Just another interesting thing again there. Hugo better scored than Max. Fios better scored than Closed. If you didn't know which way around it was, you would think promotion and relegation was mixed up. But no, I think all of them did pretty well. And I think even with Fios and Hugo being down in the relegation playoff, I think they still had decent seasons. I don't think they did too badly. Like, Fios was only 5 points away from Max at the end of the regular season, even though he was in 9th and Max was in 4th. And Hugo had, as we said previously, the 4th highest total score. So even then, it's not too surprising that they did decently on this seed as well. But yeah, Max was the one who won the promotion game against Closed. And probably mostly because Closed didn't really have too much time to practice for the last few weeks. So that might have been one of the reasons why he lost in, let me just quickly look that up again, I think it was week 10 to Benica, yeah. If he hadn't lost that game, he probably wouldn't have even needed to go through that playoff. But I think Closed still has a very good chance to fight for promotion again next season. And yeah, maybe Hugo can even join him there, considering his total score in that fight. Mm-hmm. And yeah, Fios, he's already been promoted from Division 4 once. He can do it again.
See, Gweilo, any thoughts on your, I guess, former division mates?
Yeah, so I was glad that Hugo was able to pull it out. He did really, really well last season. I think he lost to you in the promotion decider, right? Yeah. Yeah, he had a really rough season, like you said, 4th highest total score. I didn't pay attention to his matches closely, but I assume he just had really bad luck. So I think he earned his spot in Division 3, so I'm glad he was able to pull it out. Although it's a shame for Theos because he also had a really good season last year. So it's I was sad to see him go as well. And then regarding Closed and Max, obviously I haven't played either of these two people, but they've definitely shown their skill and their ability to perform. And yeah, it was I mean, it's exciting to see that like the 3 people who were promoted from Division 3 this year, none of them were in Division 3 last year. So they're making up the ranks and they're proving themselves to be good. And yeah, I look forward to seeing Max in Division 2 next season.
Yeah, well, congrats to Hugo for staying up, and yeah, congrats on Max on your promotion to Division 2. Yeah, so let's take a look at their locations, how they shaped up with 3 European locations, definitely on the easier side. And we started off round 1 in Malaysia, but very close to the northwestern Thai border, which could mean you might have wandered your way if you were fast into Thailand. I'm not really sure about the distance, though. Round 2, very rural Latvia, which is always going to be fun. Round 3 in Peru, actually in a major city, so that wasn't too bad for a South American round at least. Round 4, for any return players, we were in North Macedonia, outside of Radovic on the A4. And round 5, again, Netherlands appeared, and we were in the kind of north part near the coast. I believe we were just southwest of, here's more bad language pronunciation, Leeuwarden, near the A7 and the N359 for that one. Yeah, so Calamity, how did this game go for you, or what did you see in these seeds?
Yeah, we're now getting into the rounds where, or the seeds where I actually did well. And you couldn't have gone from Malaysia to Thailand because there's actually no connection in Street View there. They're all, they've all got little gaps in them. But even if they had a connection, I think it would take you at least 5 or 6 minutes to make it to Thailand in that round. But yeah, it was pretty close. I liked Malaysia a lot last season, so it wasn't surprising that I did pretty well on this one. That was actually quite a difficult round, though, I think. I didn't walk too far because the important signs were all pretty close. But if you walked a bit, you found a sign that told you if you keep going north, I think it was, then you can take the K13, which makes it sort of easy because K13 already gives you the state, or the province, sorry. But if you look at the map there, the K13 isn't particularly close to that. And if anything, it's south of us. So thankfully, there was another sign which was pointed the opposite way that also told you, I think it was Pedu Resort or something like that, is 32 kilometers south of you. And Pedu is a very big lake in that area. And kind of thinking, okay, well, the Pedu Resort is probably close to Pedu Lake. Made the actual location that it had to be pretty clear. But even then, it still wasn't easy to pinpoint. And if you look at the results, not a lot of people, well, it was kind of me, Giovanni, and M the Baseman got close. And M the Baseman was the only one who got a perfect score in that round. With a lot of the people here, Hugo, Max, Fierce, and Close, they were all sort of between 4.7 to 4.9k. So yeah, not too much of a decider for that one. Then we moved on to, as you said, rural Latvia. In this case, you pretty much had good signs in both directions, so it didn't really matter too much. I think it was the southern direction that gave you a sign with the distance to Saldus, which made it relatively easy to find on the map. And so yeah, I don't think people lost a lot of points there. Interestingly, no perfect scores from any of the 4, but also no one lost more than 60 points. So definitely not the decider here. Rural Latvia is probably never going to be the decider unless it comes down to like 2 points in a match, because you're never going to lose many there. Then we went over to Arequipa in Peru, which was the first instance, I think, where I saw Miraflores, because Arequipa has a district called Miraflores. Of course it does. That one was actually kind of weird. I did find a sign saying we're in Arequipa reasonably fast, but I also saw a taxi that said we're in Cerro Colorado district, which is kind of in the northwest of Arequipa. And I also looked north, and it looked like we were super close to the mountains. So I kind of went all the way north there, and we just weren't. We were kind of even south of the city center. So that was kind of just confusing to me. Even from, like, I walked north and into the city center, and even from the city center, it looked like the mountains were super close. But yeah, Then we had round 4. Oh yeah, nothing. That round didn't really do anything for Fierce, Hugo, and Max, but Close dropped a lot of points there. Close went with Cusco, which is about 300 kilometers further north, and lost about 900 points there, which decided his game against Max. And then to finish it off, we had 2 not too difficult rounds. One in North Macedonia, although Fierce dropped quite a few points there. Dropped his deciding 600 points in that round against Hugo, although even with those 600 points, actually, wait a second. No, he still would have been 9 points short, even if he had 5k that round, which is unfortunate. But yeah, that round confused me actually a bit, because I don't even know why. It looked completely like North Macedonian. That was very obvious to me, but I just couldn't find Radovic for some reason. I think part of it was that in the North Macedonian spelling on the sides, it didn't have an H at the end. And, on the map in English, it does. But I just couldn't find it for some reason. And I had to rely on finding the municipality of Radovic, which I then did manage to do. But yeah, there was not a lot of people who 5k'd that one, actually. It was only me and Max. Which, again, a bit surprising, but it was, again, another pretty straight road. And the last round was, as you said, in the Netherlands near Leeuwarden. And that one was even worse for me. I don't know what I was doing that seat, because relatively quickly you saw signs that you're close to the A7, and you had a sign towards Bolsward, and I think you had a couple of other cities as well. And I swear to God, I looked through the A7, and that's not the longest road. It kind of goes from the German border to Amsterdam. I looked through that road 3 times until I found Bolsward. And you can zoom out quite a bit, and that stands out, and I don't know what happened. But yeah, I found it in the end, and again, it wouldn't have been too difficult to pinpoint if you actually had the time to do it, but because it took me so long, I didn't. But yeah, not many points dropped here. Max and Hugo and closed with perfect scores, and Fierce dropped 1 point. So that certainly wasn't the decider.
Yeah, Gweilo, how did it go for you? What was your experience with these locations?
Yeah, I think it's a pretty good summary. Yeah, like Calamity, like you said, I think the Peru was the deciding round for Closed and Max, right? With Closed guessing in Cusco, and Max got it pretty close in Arequipa. I didn't even get Arequipa when I played it. I guess farther north in, I think it's Huancayo. I saw a sign for Lima, or maybe it's like a taxi for Lima or something. But I figured we weren't in Lima because of the landscape, but I didn't get Arequipa. And then, yeah, like you said, even though I played in practice a lot in North Macedonia last season, I do not recognize North Macedonia when I play in it.
Really?
So I actually also guessed Serbia, like Theos did, and part of the reason for that is that Serbia also has yellow like road signs when you with like street names or town names on them rather. I think they both have yellow signs. I might be wrong on that. And then of course once I kind of assumed I was in Serbia, like you did with Montenegro, I just didn't see any of the cities on the signs. So I mean I don't know if Theos had a video. I didn't watch it if he did, but maybe something similar happened. Yeah. And then go ahead.
I was just gonna say Fierce definitely did record his, but I don't think Hugo did. I'm not sure if Fierce puts his videos as public on his channel. Probably not. So, well, you will never find out unless he tells us.
Yeah, maybe he'll be nice and send you a link to the video.
But yeah, I was just gonna say as well. So we both managed to mistake Serbia for one other country.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for me, I did it in the seat that mattered. But yeah, both of them do have yellow signs, although North Macedonia also has a lot of blue ones. I don't know which direction you went, but towards the east there was a blue sign. But yeah, a lot of the Balkans look kind of similar in that regard.
Yeah, and the one last thing I wanted to add is for the round of the Netherlands. I saw a sign for I can't remember if it's the municipality or province of Friesland, and that was what helped me a lot.
Okay.
I think it might have been on one of like the signs when you enter a town. It has like the province or region underneath or something like that. I don't remember though. That was what helped me a lot in that round. I don't have anything else to say about Latvia or Malaysia. I think your summary was pretty solid.
Yeah, after playing North Macedonia last season in Reddit League, it is become one of the most recognizable countries in the world, maybe for me, maybe a lot of other players too. It's just you play so many games on a small country, and you're like, yep, I know what corner this of the country it even is because of how many times you've played it, even for just 1 week, given its size. Kyrgyzstan is sort of like that too from last season, but it's harder to pinpoint where you are, but you just know you're in Kyrgyzstan. So, but yeah, very nice indeed for that. So we got one final game. Our last one was the Division 4/5 last chance matchup for a chance for GRH to stay in Division 4 or for J Lions to get promoted into Division 4. And he took that by a landslide. J Lions did over 10,000 point victory over GRH in this one. I think that's pretty much how everybody kind of expected it to go. Calamity, I know you did mention it last time on the show. So, any comments on this one?
Well, it's Gweilow's turn, isn't it?
Oh, sorry, Gweilo.
Indeed, no problem. Yeah, I don't have a ton of stuff to say. I don't know any of these players super well. It was a really tough seed. There were 2 rounds that if you just didn't recognize it, you just don't get it. And we'll talk about that in a second. But well done to J Lions for snagging an extra promotion spot after all the chaos between Divisions 4 and 5 this season with all the people who retired. So yeah, really well done, and I hope he does well next season in Division 4.
Very nice. Yeah, so the Division 4 seed, here we go. Not too bad overall, but as Gweilo said, we had 2 very interesting, unique locations. So we started off in Northern Ireland, not the part of the British UK, but actual Northern Ireland, near the border, actually, just north of Sligo, on the coast. We then moved on into round number 2 in Bhutan, which is a very interesting location east of the capital there. Round 3, we were in Bolivia, just south of Oruro, which, given we played it in the regular season, might have been a nice appearance for our players. Round 4 was in Serbia. So there we go. After 2 people had guessed in Serbia, we finally were in Serbia. And round 5, we finished off on the very unique location of Christmas Island. So lots of meta there to give that one away. But as Gweilo mentioned, if you didn't know that, it could be very hard to find anywhere else in that one. Yeah, so any further comments on Division 4 locations, Gweilo?
Yeah, I mean, just kind of what you said about Christmas Island. I only recognize it because I've played there before, and I kind of recognize the street signs and the dirt roads, and I think there's also a car, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But if you haven't played there before, there's basically no way you're getting it unless there's a sign that's Christmas Island that I didn't see. The other round he missed was in Bhutan, like you said. This one I think was a little bit more obvious. There's I don't remember if there was any Bhutanese text, but there was at least tons of of city names. Like I think there was a sign for Thimphu. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, which is the capital of Bhutan, and that was what helped me a lot. Yeah, I mean maybe it's just an off week for GRH, but it was very well played by J Lion. So he did an excellent job actually.
Yeah, Calamity.
Yeah, we started off in Ireland, as you said, near Sligo. I don't even think I saw a sign towards Sligo. I might have done actually. I just remember seeing a sign for the N15 and the sign towards Derry, which kind of gives you the general region. And then it wasn't too difficult to get there. I actually made a mistake in pinpointing, because there was like right at the start you had one small road that goes off to the east, and there was one on that whole pretty straight stretch of road on the map. There was one small little road that went off to the east, but apparently it wasn't the same one. So I was 147 meters off, but good enough for the 5K there. But yeah, not a lot of people dropped points here. Then we moved on to Bhutan, where I actually didn't see any signs towards Thimphu or anything like that. I saw a sign pretty close to the south, I think, of this, or north of the start, that said a city name that just isn't on the map. But I kind of walked my way south then. You kind of made it your way to the eastern part of a valley where you can kind of see down and look at a river that sort of works its way north-south through the valley, which describes about 17 different places in Bhutan, so it doesn't help too much. And eventually I just chose the wrong valley. And yeah, as I said, I didn't find anything written that would have helped me. Then we moved on to Bolivia, and that was actually a weird one for me because I've never been on this road in practice in Bolivia at all, which was very odd for me because this was a similar situation again to the Uruguay situation where I was like, it kind of does look like Bolivia, but I've never seen this, which is very unlikely to be the case if it is in Bolivia because I've practiced it so much. And even worse, I also then walked north, and there was a couple of those it was kind of graffiti-like on the side of the road that all looked like Chilean road numbers, where it was kind of like one was C dash and then a number, and one was B dash and a number. So I looked through Chile for quite a while, and with like, I don't know, about 30 seconds left, probably, maybe a bit more, I found straight up a sign that had the Bolivian flag on it, and then I was like, okay. And at that point, which is another surprising thing to me, at that point, I was like instantly, okay, well, it's got to be there then. Because you could see a big lake right next to you, and that was kind of the only place that made sense. And I also saw a sign that told us we're very close to a municipality called Paznia, which then stands out once you zoom into there. The only problem I had is I went north until I saw that sign that said municipality of Paznia, and I never saw a city or even a town. I barely saw any houses. So I assumed, okay, I walked north to get to this sign, then I'm assuming the city has to be even further north, which is why I went much further south of the city, when in actuality we started pretty much outside of the city, but on the northern part of it. So if I had just gone south, I would have straight away made it into the city. But yeah, couldn't have known that. But yeah, a lot of people kind of had the area wrong here in Bolivia, which is mainly what surprised me, because as we talked about, we played that like literally 3 weeks ago, I think, or 2 weeks ago even. Then yeah, we had round 4, which was in Serbia, and thankfully we both got Serbia right at least. That would have been annoying if we both guessed Serbia in 2 different occasions when it wasn't, and then we got Serbia wrong when it was. But no, we did get it right. And I only saw one small, I saw the small town that we started in on a sign and nothing else, until I eventually found the bus, I think, that said Niche on it. So I kind of just guessed around there because I couldn't find a small town. But yeah. And then we had Christmas Island, as you said. Probably not the easiest to find if you've never seen it, but it is a very, very recognizable place. If you have seen it before, it's very obvious that it's Christmas Island. So it does surprise me that GRH didn't get it right, because, well, he's been playing Reddit League for 3 seasons, so I would have assumed that we've had Christmas Island a few times in there. I definitely remember having one round in Christmas Island before, but I don't know which seed that was and if he played that in particular. But yeah, I think in total, it's definitely deserved for Jake Lyons to get promoted, and we'll see if GRH is more comfortable in Division 5 next season.
Very nice. Well, congrats to Jay Lyons on that, and we'll see you next season, because our seasons aren't a year long, so we'll be back very soon with the next season of Reddit League. I'll see you in Division 4 in that one. Well, we've only really got one matchup for next week, and that's the grand final. Kind of left it for the end here because we want to talk a little bit about it, because it's a little bit different of a format than everything else. Of course, it's Real Boxa up against Raidman, the repeat finalist from last season. Unlike the regular season, it is a best of 3. Each player gets to pick one map that they want to call like their home map, so to speak. And then I believe the tiebreaker, Calamity, is AI generated world if we need it.
Probably.
Okay, probably. It was last season. We'll see if Schmingo leaves it like that or if he changes things up. They have a week to play all 3 of those matchups. And then we do the numbers and see who wins, and we crown ourselves a victor in this one. Any predictions, Calamity, on how this might end up?
It's difficult. We've literally just had the game in week 11 in Kenya, and it ended in a draw. So we'll see if one of them wants to get revenge for that. But yeah, I doubt we'll be seeing Kenya in the final. But I think picking maps against your opponents here is one of the most interesting parts. Like, do you go for your own strengths? Do you go for your opponent's weaknesses? Do you go for something reliable? Do you go for something random, where it might depend a lot on the locations you get? There's so many different strategies you can try. And last season, Raidman won his map choice of Singapore and lost Simi's choice of Europe. So maybe Raidman will go for Singapore again. Maybe Boxer will go for Europe because he knows Raidman has been beaten there before. But over the course of the season, Raidman has actually won 10 out of the 12 weeks against Boxer, with the only 2 weeks for Boxer being on Dams of the World in Italy. So I do think he goes into this as the favorite, also because, well, he does have the experience of being in a final before. But you also got to consider maybe maybe the nerves will get to him if, because he did lose last time. So maybe there'll be an additional kind of pressure, mostly coming from himself, because he's already lost once. He definitely wants to win it now. So we'll have to see how that influences it as well. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to it. And of course, because they're both recording, we can actually show you that this time.
Yeah,
we might have to do like a vote somewhere on the format. We'll show the final, because I think people liked the way I did it last season a lot. And we'll have to see if people want that style again, or if they want a normal coverage, because I do think it'd be quite nice to do something special for the final. But maybe we can kind of think of a combination so that we can both be involved, but also, it's not just a normal coverage.
Yeah, we've got to do something special for the final for sure. Gweilo, any thoughts on the final here?
I'm really looking forward to it, whatever format it's presented in. Yeah, so I think that's a pretty good summary. Raidman chose Singapore last year and 25K'd it. I mean, I don't know why he did this, but my guess is that it's pretty safe if you want to just 25K something to kind of like put the ball in your opponent's court. But that might be a little risky. I mean, Raidman is Polish. I don't know if he's lived there for a very long period or what, but maybe the advantage would be greater on a map, a map around your home country or your home territory. Even if you can't 25K it. So I think the strategy last year was interesting, but he only, I guess it's not point differential. It's like just if you win or not, right?
Yes.
Yep.
So in that case, Singapore makes a lot of sense actually. So I'm kind of expecting him to do that again, especially as it worked last year. And also kind of like you said, Calamity, Raidman does have the experience here. Although to me, it's not clear how much that matters, if at all. Boxer's put in a stellar performance this year, and in his first season of Reddit League, he's on top of the Division 1 charts. And he won a tight game in his playoff. So I think I have to choose Raidman for the experience, but it's definitely not going to be a pushover to any stretch. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting here because one thing that could really come into play is, like we've been talking about a bit, the maps that you choose. Now, Boxa has lots of information on the kinds of maps Raidman wants to play. He's been in the final before. He can kind of see how things went. But Boxa is brand new. There's almost no research you can do on Boxa. Yeah, you can maybe go through the Reddit and see what he's played before and how he does in general. But actual in Reddit League, he has a lot less data out there for Raidman to sort of sort through if he wants to pick a map based on his opponent. But I'm kind of expecting maybe Raidman do something similar, pick a map where he can 25K, where he's very comfortable 25K, and at least making Boxa put up a good score in his own map, and then seeing if he can just take it to the final matchup, the tiebreaker. So I definitely expect this to go to the tiebreaker, which means it's actually going to be more about what kind of map Schmingo picks than it does what these two pick for that. But definitely looking forward to that, and we're going to try to bring it to you in a very special way, as it is the final. So, well, thank you all for watching, not only today, but for the entire season. It's been a great ride, and we can't wait to see how this final finishes up in the coming week, and we'll see you all there. Take care.
Bye.
Bye.